Did you know, right? I didn't know this. So my brother came back from there yesterday, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
That Hong Kong,
Yeah.
they've got bars that are like sex worker bars. So you go in there, and it's purely for prostitution.
Instead of like a brothel?
It's like open. Everyone knows it. There's no like secrecy about it. It's just there in the open. So you can be walking down, say, City Road in Cardiff, and there's just like open prostitution places.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I thought Hong Kong was quite like a
bit more controlled than that.
a bit more. I thought those countries were quite, or that continent was very much not about prostitution and sex.
Yeah,
The laws are quite strict.
Well, Japan is mental for sex, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't know that Japanese people like cheat on their partners all the time.
Yeah, no, you can go to. You can get like I don't want to say. Actually, I'm going to say it. I'm pretty sure you can like buy like dirty knickers, like in Japan. Like it's like, oh, I want to buy these dirty knickers, and there's just like a picture of the girl on the
Whose knickers it was?
Yeah, I swear to God.
What is the fetish around that?
It's gross. Where did I see that? I can't remember. I saw it. It was like something like Carl Pilkington and Idiot Abroad, something like that. You know?
Great.
Yeah, man. What was he out in Hong Kong for?
He was playing tens. So do you know what tens is?
No.
So you know rugby.
Yeah.
You get 15 players on the team.
Yeah.
So tens is so.
Also, it's just 10 people on the team.
There's 10 players rather than 15.
So what's the difference?
So the difference is in tens, there's more space on the pitch.
Right.
So you can throw a ball around to create gaps, and it's more about speed and endurance rather than power and strength.
Right.
Whereas with 15s, there's less space. So you have to be a little bit more patient with trying to find spaces and whatnot. So it's a same game but different. If that makes sense. On the topic of patience, we wanted to talk about patience today. Mm-hmm. You sent me a voice note yesterday, and it was something that we've touched on in previous podcasts, and I know it's something that we're both quite passionate about. So, do you want to open this up and talk?
Yeah, I'll tell you where it stemmed from. Right?
Yeah.
So it stemmed from, like, we were talking about my competition calendar this year.
Who was talking?
Me and my missus.
You and your partner.
So we went for a walk. We were just talking about what we like plans this year and stuff with Max and holidays and stuff. And then I've got a competition on May the 4th, and then I've got a competition Zero Pro I'm planning to do 16th of November. So we were just talking about that, and it was like, what is like the objective? And I was like, well, the one on the May the 4th is just going to be like a competition I'm not peaking for. It's a competition to experience another federation, to experience different conditions. So this is on a power bar, not a deadlift bar, which is what I normally compete at. It's in sleeves, it's in a combo rack. The conditions are basically the same as when I first started powerlifting. So I wanted to just go through that again and go through those conditions. So there's that, and then in November then is the one I want to peak really hard for. And we discussed about me aiming for a 900 kilo total. That's what I want to try and hit at that comp. And it was funny because then Saf was just like, I remember you saying that when you went to a pro roll.
When was pro roll?
Pro roll was 20, so just after COVID. So 20 or 25. So that was 22. Yeah, pro roll 12 was 2022, I believe. So like 3 years ago, 4 years ago now. And he was like, I remember you saying that then. And I was just like, yeah, when I said it then, it was like, if all the stars aligned, I could total 900. Because in prep for that, I squatted 345, I pulled 340, and I benched like 175. So like...
What's that in total?
So that's like, so call it like 350, 350 is 7. So it would have been 690, 790.
I'm testing your maths.
60. It was like 865, 870, right? And my 340 pull was easy. I get a lot out of wraps when I'm peaked as well. So I normally gain like plus 10. So say I got like 20 kilos there, then I'm like sort of like, 15 kilos out of reach. And it's like, oh, who knows? I could actually get close to 900. So that's where that came in conversation then. Anyway, I didn't do it a pro roll, but like, then went back into training, and then there was more comp. So there's been like 3-4 years since that competition, right? And I'm still sort of got my eyes on the same number. I still haven't done that yet. And then Saf was just like, it's so mad that like out of everything that I do in my life, it's very like, I want like gratification. I want like reassurance. I want like everything set in stone, so it's like a certain outcome with everything everything I do. But she was like, powerlifting is like the only thing that you sort of just fully trust your system, and you never really need to reassure that you're strong enough to do it. Because I've been strong enough, in my opinion, to total 900 for the last 2 years. And I still haven't done it, and I'm still not choosing to do it at every competition that I do, which again is like quite an interesting like mindset. And the reason that happens is because I'm capable of doing it when I'm fresh and I'm peaked and I'm prepping hard into it and I'm not injured. But if one of those things are out, then it's going to be really hard for me to like achieve that, right? So think of like my life. I've got like married, I had a child, I opened a business, I've been injured multiple times. All of those things are like life events. Plus then put into the mix that I wasn't feeling like prepping for something that grueling. I just wanted to train. So all of those life events then sort of pull you slightly away. So you're capable, but you still haven't been able to sort of like showcase it. And it's been 3 or 4 years since that point. So at the end of this year is like, I'm going to do my best to actually like showcase like that 900 kilo total. And I suppose like the point of like that little story is that like, I feel like the vast majority of people would, unless they could show it to themselves straight away within 3 months, everyone says, 12-week meet prep and 12-week cycles and all this sort of stuff. Unless they can showcase it in 3 months, they're just like tap out. Mm-hmm. And they'll be like, I can't do it, or it was too hard, or I want to do something else now. There's like no patience to be able to continue, and there's no patience to be able to just go in, day out, week in, week out, and just try and better yourself. And if they fail at some point, get injured, you know, miss a lift or whatever, there's like that sort of immediate like rationale of like, I can't do that, or I won't do that, or I'm not doing that anymore. This is like, it's almost like people don't want to fail, or they don't want to be like, they don't want to experience that. So then they just like move away from it, or they're like, I don't do that anymore. And they just like exit straight away. It's like, as soon as it gets a little bit hard, you just want to exit. As soon as you can't do something, you want to exit. It's like, that's like, 1, not patient, and 2, really mentally weak.
Yeah. And skewed expectations.
Yeah.
And I can 100% relate to what you've just said there, because I had a chat with a client last week. He sent his progress photos over. He's been in a 4-week muscle building phase, and he sent photos across, and he said, I'm a bit disappointed. I was expecting more. And I said, what are your expectations based off? Couldn't give me an answer. So first of all, that's flawed to begin with, that your thought process. So then I showed him other guys who had built muscle with me, and I gave him the time frames that I took them. This guy, it took 8 months. This guy, it took 11 months. This guy, it took 12 months. They would considerably gained muscle. He saw that. All of a sudden, his expectations were normal.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that now.
Yeah.
So I do think it goes back to that thing of, what you said about
check out. I just feel like, like expectations is definitely one. It's like a lack of patience to persist. But I feel like the fear of failure as well. So if they get close to like not being able to do it, they just want to like not fail. They'll just exit. The amount of people that have like been prepping for a comp have these numbers in their head and then just pull out because they're like, I just don't think I can achieve what I want to achieve. And it's just it's such a soft mindset.
Yeah.
And like when you say about the expectations, like I won't name names, but like some people have been powerlifting for literally 2 minutes. And I say 2 minutes, they've been in it for like less than a year, which is 2 minutes. And their expectations are like one thing, because you'll make rapid progress if you're consistent with your training in the initial 3-4 months, you'll make rapid progress, right? Because your body is not coordinated enough to express the strength because the skill is really poor. The coordination of the movement is really poor. So in that initial 3 to 4 months, the body is getting more coordinated to do the movement. Therefore, it gets stronger. Plus, on top of that, you're building strength. So you get this double whammy of like improvement of skill and motor control, and you get this improvement of strength
and
through
muscle
consistent
as
training.
well.
Exactly, right? So all of this stuff is happening, and it's like all new, it's all novel, and everything's amazing. So you get these huge, like rapid changes and huge rapid rates of progress. And then obviously eventually then it slows down. And as soon as it slows down, people then are like, oh, my goal was to bench 100 kilos at this time, and I'm stuck at like 85 now. And it's just like, yeah, but you went from 60 to 85 like that. And then just because 60 to 85 went like that doesn't mean the next couple of months goes like that, and the next one goes like that. It's like that's really arrogant, and it's ignorance as well.
Entitled.
Yeah,
Entitlement.
super entitled. And actually, it's a little bit offensive to me that's been doing this for over 10 years. Do you think you're going to make that rapid progress and I'm only on 185 kilos? Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's insulting. You know, it's not that easy. It's not that simple. So like there's that. But even when like those people like reflect, and they reflect really negatively, like want to exit the sport, don't want to go to the gym as much, want to change their schedule, not put much time into it, even though they've been really enjoying it. They're basing it all off like outcomes, and you're like, these are the expectations. You've been doing it for 2 minutes. This is what is realistic in this time frame. If you can do this, and this, then you can get this, and this. And I can literally see it go in one ear, out the other ear, and they're like, I don't care, I want more. And it's just like, well, the weights don't care that you want more. Do you know what I mean? It's like you have to earn the right to do that. And that takes time, patience, and effort. It has to almost like become a lifestyle. If you want the goals that you're like suggesting, you have to do more than that. And it's just really interesting that like to hear people do that. And then you talk to someone like Sandra that hadn't hit like a PB in like 4 years, and now she's just starting to hit PBs, and she's like buzzing because she's like broken through this like little plateau that she was in. But same sort of deal. She's doing different training methodologies, different coaches. She was in different stages of her life. Her body weight was changing a lot. She was moving around a lot. There's a lot of other things that were like potentially stalling progress, but she didn't give up. Like she's still in the gym, putting the work in day out, following programs week in, week out. She's still chipping away. And now she's got a really good routine. She's been here for like nearly a year. And now she's like settled. She's adopted my methods, which are superior. and she's making progress again. And it's like, she's like broken through that plateau, right? And that's been like, again, 3-4 years or something. And then people are here 3-4 months and they're like, I thought I would do more than that. They expect linear progress, block to block. And it's just like, it's so hard, even with like knowledge and loads of case studies and managing expectations. Even with all that, it's like they find it really hard to just digest that information and be like, your progress is going to slow down, but you have to train harder. And even though you're training harder, it will still slow down, but it will in the long term improve. And then people are like, oh, that's actually disheartening.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like disheartening because of everything we spoke about before, the culture, the expectations, the constant reassurance they want. It's like that people want to max out all the time. You want to, am I stronger? Let me see.
Yeah, I'm gonna get onto that in a bit, but just two things there that really kind of got me racking my brains. There was something that I heard a few years ago, and that was the process and the journey is the goal.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you found it, but whenever I've gone into something, when I did my photo shoot, the actual day of the photo shoot was very underwhelming.
Yeah.
It was quite boring. The day of when I hit my 207.5 kg squat, that's been almost like a 10-year journey.
Yeah.
And the actual day of hitting it, straight away I was going, oh, maybe I can go 230 now.
100%.
You know? So I think people don't realize that it's the journey, it's the getting up early to train, it's the coming down here, talking to people, having fun, it's the checking in with a coach and seeing small little gains, it's the character changes that they see where they go from someone who always gives up to someone who perseveres and goes through resistance, these little blips that you just talked about. That is the goal. That is the journey. That's what people enjoy. It's not the actual end outcome.
100%.
And I think when people give up, then it's like, okay, so you're going to go back to your old life? That old life where you were miserable, that old life where you were sluggish, that old life where you were moaning and complaining that you felt weak.
Yeah.
Okay, that's always going to be there waiting for you, but come on now, like you're enjoying this. Stay the course.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question on that. If you went to the gym, you'd never get stronger than what you are right now. Would you still work as hard, knowing that you're never ever going to get stronger?
Oh, that's a good question.
Would you have the same frequency, the same intensity, bring the same level of like mental tenacity to your sessions, knowing that you're never going to get stronger? Your body composition can change, but you're never going to get stronger.
Okay, if my body composition can change, then yeah, I would.
Okay, let me change that. Your body composition can change for the worse, but not better.
Okay, so it just stays the same.
Yeah, so if you train and put this in, you remain the same. If you drop the ball, you can regress.
Yeah, I would 100% stay on top of it. And the reason why I say that is because I came across a question, which is very similar one to you asked the other day. And it was, if you were the last person on earth, what would be the things that you'd still do, right? And one of those things was I told myself I'd still meditate and I'd still train. Why? Because they make me feel better.
Yeah.
I've had moments in my journey where I've been training consistently. All of a sudden, something happens in my life. And this is going back in the early days, something happens in my life. I'll have 2 or 3 months off training, which hasn't really happened that often, probably once or twice. I've dropped the ball and then it feels like I'm restarting again. And as soon as I did that once or twice, I told myself, I'm never doing that again, because the challenge of having to go back and feel like I'm starting all over again is so demoralizing for me. I'm putting all this time and effort in. I want to keep on going. I want to keep on progressing and not regress. Yeah. So to answer your question, if it was your body wouldn't get better, but it would go worse, and I would 100% keep training, because the way that I look matters so much to me, because I feel a lot better in myself. Yeah. I've got more confidence. My self-esteem is better. I can take my top off and not worry about what other people, or what I perceive of what other people will think about me. Oh, he should be in better shape. He's a PT. But that's how my brain works. I know that won't work for everyone, but I think that's a really interesting question. Yeah. And it goes back to another question that I've got written down here as well, is, would you still train the same way if no one could ever see your numbers? So that was a question that I had for you.
Yeah, 100%. I would. I don't think I would change anything. If I made no progress ever again, I would still do the exact same thing. And if no one knew my numbers, I'd still do the exact same thing. It's just like it's more to it than just like even like serotonin, oxytocin, and all of those like happiness signals you get from training, like the endorphin release. It's just more to it than that. Like, I'd say it's just a huge part of my lifestyle, and has been since I was about 13, 14. It's like 20 years of just like my routine. And I feel like when I'm training, I'm in this almost like a flow state of like you say, you meditate and you consciously meditate to make you feel better. And you'll just be whilst you're meditating. Like, I feel like I get like that when I train.
I get it when I train as well. Nothing else matters. Like, if you come in with problems stay at the door. You're not actively going into the room going, right, I'm going to keep my problems at the door. They just stay there. Yeah. For whatever reason. Yeah. I don't know what it is.
And I think that I'm probably a little bit more like I'm quite a thinky coach. And like, I love movement. So I'll watch people move in here all the time, and I'll like constantly analyze it. But then when I'm doing things like, say, like the dumbbells right there. So if I'm doing like dumbbell bench, I'm like, what can I manipulate in this to make it feel a particular way? What can I do? What do I want to get out of this? How's like my shoulder feeling when I'm doing this? Can I like push the intensity today? Well, like, there's just loads of things that go through my head. Like, what is this bringing to the table? Like, how is this going to impact like my main bench? What can I do to make it impact the main bench better? What's this doing for my shoulders and shoulder health?
That's how your brain works.
If I've reached a little bit more at this point, that's going to like, work my serratus a little bit more. The serratus' job is to control the tilt of the scaps. If I do this in this way, what is it going to do? Maybe I'll protract one and just rep the other, and then hold that in an isometric. Like literally, like all the time. This is what's controlling. What can I do even further now to go down this rabbit hole? And like, I'm just constantly like that. And I think that for me, that level of like depth of thought and just being really in tune with just like the human body makes me feel like really like appreciative of like, I'm able to do this, appreciative that I'm here on the planet, appreciative that I can do this to like help people. And it makes me feel like my being is just like more purposeful. So it's like, for me, it's like, I would constantly do that, and none of that would change. Like, the numbers on the bar are obviously huge for me. I mean, powerlifting is a strength sport. The more you lift, the better you are. So obviously, like, that is my main goal, but I don't think that's absolutely everything. But I also say that in the same breath that you have to be careful with that, like, line of thinking, because if you're in a car accident and you're in hospital for a while, and then the process of you getting back to like the gym is really slow, you gotta have enough of a detachment to be like, it doesn't consume me. It's not my sole identity. If you actually physically can't train, you have to be able to like rationalize that as well. It can't overly consume you. So it's like an unhealthy obsession, but it can be a healthy obsession where it's a lifestyle for you.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really crazy what you said there about being in tune with your body. I think nowadays people are so out of tune with their body. I don't think they understand that they're both interconnected in some shape or form. If you feel good and you look good and you feel strong in your mind already, you're more confident, you're more assertive, you can make better decisions, faster decisions. And where was I going with this? I was going to say something quite interesting then.
I can add to like just what you just said.
Yeah, go on.
Like with, do you know Vedant that comes down here?
Yeah.
The most introverted kid, like ever, would make very little eye contact, wouldn't really engage in much conversation. And he's been coming down here for a year having PT with me, and he's gotten bigger, and he's recognized his body's gotten bigger. He basically, last summer, he trained in here pretty constantly, changed, his body shape changed over like the 6 weeks. He went back to school and everyone was like, oh my God, what's happened to you? You're looking jacked. And it was like a flick. And he came in then, because he was pretty much the same. He wasn't that conscious of his body changing. He was conscious of like the objective number increase, but he wasn't like, I'm changing. And then he went to school, and like teachers, his mates, people he doesn't really interact with would come up to him and pay him attention and like, how are you bigger? Like these sort of questions. And it made him feel really good. And then since then, he's come in here now. He's talking to members, talking to adults. He used to never do that. Barely talk to me. He's engaging with people. He's done 2 competitions, and he's a confident, like teenage boy, like 17, confident. And even his mum says, she's like, he's doing better in school because he's just generally more confident. It's like lifting weights has helped his school, his academia. You know,
Yeah,
it's like it's unbelievable. There's so many benefits to like lifting weights, and then the byproduct of like increased confidence from that.
That takes me back to when I first started. Carbon copy. Started lifting in my free lessons when I had some. Signed up to the leisure centre, and my dad got really annoyed actually because one teacher said, oh, I think Daniel's on steroids, and she was telling the other pupils like Daniel's on steroids because it wasn't massive at all, but you go through that process and it changes you. Yeah. It really does change you. I still haven't remembered what I had in mind, but it was something to do with identity. I can't remember what it was, but it was really interesting. But anyway, I fucked it. So here's a question I have for you. We've been talking about patience. Do you think patience is something that is hardwired into us, or lack of patience is something that's hardwired into us, or is it something that you can train yourself to being better at? So what, do you want me to go with this first?
You go first.
So when I first met my partner, so to cut a long story short, when I grew up, my dad was very impatient. If there was a queue, he'd go, oh, I'm not fucking queuing, and then he'd just fuck off, and we'd be like, oh, okay. He's quite brash with his ways of thinking. So when I met Soph, that was all I'd been exposed to, was someone not being patient. So when I met Soph and I was mimicking my dad's behavior, if we were at, like say if there was a queue, I'd be telling Soph, I'm not queuing there, and I just walk off. But Soph trained me and almost ingrained being patient in me. So on that sense, I think I've had to train myself to be better. But with training, changing my body, if we're using it from that angle, I think it's something that I've always had, if that makes sense. So I think patience is different depending on what you're doing, if that makes sense. Like you've got world patience, queuing, waiting for an order, being on the phone, and someone's being useless, you have to be patient with them. And then there's training patience, which is a completely different patience in itself. Do you want to add anything to that?
No. Like, so I think like in terms of like patience, I when you initially asked the question, I was like, I think it's very dependent on patient in what, like patience for what. Like I'm really impatient, like at an airport, or I'm like really impatient in things like I went to the garage last week to get my car like tack-in done. And the guy at the front took so long to just take someone's name, car reg, and phone number, and it was like staggering. Like it was embarrassingly slow. And I was there for like 15 minutes, and he just still hadn't served me. One guy in front, and I like was losing the plot. Like I was like this, had to take like big breaths, and I was just like, I don't say anything, like, and I was really like losing my patience, and it was really affecting my mood. But then something like training, you've got all the time in the world, you know. And I think a lot of it is like it's like a value system, knowledge. I think in this instance, and I also think in some people's cases, it's just like they're not embracing. Well, I don't want to say embracing the process because it's gay, but like embracing the sort of like the challenges that come with getting the results that you want, and not having the sort of mental fortitude to continue with that, or to sort of continually expose yourself to that. So if you were like, I want to get big legs, like my go-to for big legs is pendulum squat. Like everybody knows, if someone was like in development block hypertrophy phase and they want to grow their legs, I love the pendulum squat for that. It's really loadable. It's got a really nice like loading arc on it, and you can push really fucking hard on it. It's very like entry level, right? So I put people on the pendulum squat, but if you want to grow muscle on the pendulum squat, and grow actual size in your quads, you're going to be doing that for like 3-4 months, right? And if I make you
That's
train,
so long.
yeah, exactly. You're not going to build much muscle there as a natural athlete either, but you'll get some growth, right, in like 4 months. So you doing pendulum squat, I'll only make you do it once a week, and then you could do other quad training a separate time in the week. You'll do that once a week for 4 months, and every time you go on there, it'll just be 2 sets, and both of those sets is going to be 1 RIR to 2 RIR every time, right? That on repeat weekly is so hard. You'll be scared of it by the end, and you'll look at things. People do little things. They start off and they're like, "Yeah, I'll just do it." They're like, "Oh my god, that's so hard." But then little things start to change. Like they'll change their foot position, try and make it easier. They'll put knee sleeves on. They'll like have longer rest periods. They'll just like, oh, "I'm gonna do more reps and less weight," or something. They'll always try and find something. Yeah, they're always gonna try and like exit it a little bit, and it's just psychological. Like that is all psychological. That's why like when we train together, we train harder. And like when I train with people, like when Thomas was over, I just trained harder. It's because the stoppage, the perceived exertion is psychological. And it's really hard to tap in to just like that psychological mode that's going to actually give you really big results every fucking session. And I think people can't do that, or they haven't got the fortitude to do that. So then they drop their intensity a little bit, make less progress, don't like what they do, fall off a cliff. And it comes down to like mental fortitude. They're just weak humans that are unable to withstand hard, arduous training week in, week out. And then the patience stems from that.
I think that's on the mental weakness and toughness is on a spectrum as well, because I know there are people out there who are, I'd class myself as quite mentally strong. I've got a high pain threshold, but I know there's people out there who are way mentally stronger than me, but I'd say I'm probably on the higher spectrum and compared to the lower spectrum. But it's going back to that kind of arousal thing, the way you said there about when we train together, we train harder. When your friend Thomas is over, business partner, you trained harder. And you see it in football as well. So something that comes to mind is I remember in the Euros, Wales were playing someone, and one of their left backs, who's a Liverpool player, I think either his granddad or his dad passed away the day before, but he still played the game. And I remember that game, he was unbelievable. Final whistle went, he started crying because he'd given his all. Now imagine these top end players. I think they're able to tap into that arousal. They're so driven, so focused, so want to be the best, so selfish. It's like, I can tap in. I think if you can tap into that, regardless of whether someone's passed away in your family or if it's a big occasion, you just treat every day, every session as the end of the world. I think that's the mentality that you have to kind of get into. But
I think you're right. I also think it's really unrealistic.
Massively,
and I think, and I don't want the viewers to get sort of twisted on that, because like it is unrealistic to do that. Like it's almost like, well, I'm an elite powerlifter. You should be able to just try really hard. You own a gym. Like you're in here all the time. Just work hard, like, and like I do work hard. There's like working hard, and then there's like that extra gear. It's so hard to access that all the time. And it is just reserved. I think that extra little bit is reserved for like really specific things. It's like when powerlifters are like, oh yeah, I get really like hyped and I always perform well on meet days. It's like, yeah, because arousal levels are through the fucking roof. Loads of people are watching you, you judges, you've been working hard for it. You're not going to be demotivated on in an environment like that. And that's where you get that extra little bit of like boost,
I think that's where nerves come from.
Yeah,
I think nerves are there to help us. They call it nervous energy, don't they? I yawn a lot when I get nervous. I used to play in rugby. I'd be like, my dad would be like, I'd almost be embarrassed because I'd be yawning so much. But my dad was like, oh, I understand, because I used to do it when I played rugby. And he explained to me what it was. And I was like, oh, it's nervous energy. Use it.
Nervous energy is amazing.
I think it's
like adrenaline. You start to get a little bit shaky. You know, it's that sympathetic system, fight or flight. What are you going to do? You have to step up. That's why people use smelling salts. The mechanism of smelling salts is like you smell it. It's like a fucking really strong smell that like literally hits you in the face, and it really heightens like your sympathetic system, your fight or flight. So then you're like, oh, and then everyone gets like, oh, come on. So it's like, let's fight. And then everyone's like pumped, and it gives you that like arousal. You can't really tap into that at like levels of like adrenaline all the time, because it's really draining.
I was going to say it's mentally taxing.
Really like top tip for powerlifters: don't do it for your openers and seconds, save it for your thirds. And I just go squats and deadlifts, tap into it twice on the day, and that's about it. Fuck the bench.
Here's one last question, then we'll leave the podcast here. When guys struggle So why do you think, or do you think that men struggle more with patience in the gym or in fitness in general in comparison to women? And why do you think that is? If you think that is.
I'm going to say yes. And I think it's driven by testosterone and it's driven by the man being the stronger species and the man being like the dominant one and the man having the more muscle and being stronger and whatnot. I think it's driven by that, and then it'll interlink with what we were saying earlier. But just to bring something up there that's really interesting, but off the question, is I think I think I coach more women than I do men, and I prefer coaching women than men, because they're more receptive to information and they're more receptive to do what I say. And if I say like do this, this, and this, it's like they're like okay, like they're more coachable, they're more open to be coached and follow instructions. Whereas a man being told what to do in an alpha world like strength sports, it's like it feels like you're the gorilla and they're just like a little chimp, you know, like you're the alpha in this like transaction, which you are because they're coming to you for a service. You're the expert in this field. If I was training a lawyer and they were giving me legal advice, I'm not going to try and like overwhelm them. I'm not, because I'm just going to listen to the advice and take it on board, right? Because that's their area of expertise. So I feel like men really struggle to receive coaching, take it on board as it is face value, as like do this, follow this. They take on board. They're almost like, I know best, you know? It's like there's always that little undertow. Or they'll try and challenge it, and then when they challenge it and you explain it so they can buy into what you're trying to say, there's still that, in certain men, of course, there's still that, I'm not sure. Like, I think I know like my way works for me. And there'll always be this sort of thing. And I think that mentality is what will probably make men less patient, is because they adopt that mentality that's probably not the best step forward for them, run with it, not make as much progress, and then get really impatient by it. Whereas women are, I think, are a little bit more like receptive to receiving information, following instructions, doing things as it is prescribed, and then getting an outcome from it.
Yeah. Again, I'm gonna just say one thing, and then we'll wrap it up. Perfect example. Yesterday, client messaged me, WhatsApp me, saying I got really long femurs. My squat looks shit. So I sent him my podcast. He watched the podcast. He did his own research on what long femur constituted as. He looked at the Squat University. He sent me a link, and his words were, "Squat University guy, that's a good resource." As if to say, because this, so I think it comes down to a hierarchical thing as well.
Yeah.
If someone's got a big following, if someone's got loads of case studies in comparison to someone who hasn't, even though that person could be wrong, going back to the Eddie Hall video that we did last week, you can be really strong, but you can be a terrible fucking coach.
Yeah.
But other people will see you as the strong man and will take advice from the strong person because he's on a higher hierarchical kind of ladder in comparison to someone who's maybe a little bit weaker but knows more. And I think that comes down to that. Well, yeah, goes back to what we just said then about that.
It's just so honestly, it's so annoying to hear that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and some people do have long femurs, and if they do have long femurs and they're really tall and they're very leggy, they will be a little bit more like bent over. But the chances are you're probably not in that archetype. Two, you probably got shit hips anyway. And three, even if you are in that archetype, you can look less flexed over if you just control your hips better. It's just like the whole point of like blaming leverages for like poor technique is that then you don't work on the technique, because then you just blame your leverages as a result of shit technique.
Yeah.
And it's like, work on the technical components, the same as everywhere. We all have hips, we all have shoulders, we all have torsos. They all work the same way biomechanically. Yeah, there are different shapes and sizes, but fundamentally the principle of how you control those joint complexes is the same in a movement that's the same being performed by anyone, right? So it's like, understand what you're actually trying to do to engage your hips, engage your core, engage your upper back in a movement, and then how it's displayed will be how it gets displayed. But biomechanically, it's going to be the same.
And then he was trying to justify his limb length by doing his own research, sending me all these articles, these videos, to try and justify why his squat looked like
exactly.
it did.
And instead of don't try and justify it, just try and improve it.
Yeah,
like that's the simplest answer.
Yeah. Interesting.
Cool.
Thank you, mate.
That was really fun.
Good fun. See you guys.